The Ferrari Berlinetta Boxer was only produced from 1973 until 1984. It began with the 365 GT4 BB, then evolving into the 512 BB and finally the 512 BBI. Bosch K-Jetronic fuel injection on the 512 BBI replaced the outgoing model's 4 triple-choke Weber carburetors. Otherwise mechanically identical, the flat 12 featured lower maximum revs, 6,600 RPM compared to the 512 BB's 6,800 RPM, which produced about 20 horsepower less, although top speed remained almost identical to the 512 BB's at 160 miles an hour. So while power went down on the BBI, torque and drivability went up. Enzo Ferrari realized that the success of the mid-engine Dino and realized the market's desire for a mid-engine 12-cylinder Ferrari. When finally he decided to make one, however, he surprised most everyone by using a flat 12 engine rather than a V12. The engine design was dubbed a Boxer because the pistons were opposed parallel to one another and moved like a boxer throwing jabs. Ferrari had used the flat 12 configuration for years. It appeared first in its Formula One cars in 1964 and 65, and again in 70 and 71. It was also used in 1969 undefeated hill climb champion, the Ferrari 212e Montagna. According to engineer Mauro Foggieri, the designation BB did not originally mean Berlinetta Boxer. During an interview, he claimed Ferrari knew the car was not equipped with a Boxer engine, but rather a flat 12, and the name Berlinetta Boxer was fabricated by journalists. Foggieri claimed the original name was supposed to be Berlinetta Bialbero, or dual camshaft. Another story of the name came from Leonardo Fioravanti. He claimed that the BB designation was derived from a nickname given to the car by Fioravanti himself along with Sergio Scaglietti. During the development, they thought the 365 BB to be exceptionally beautiful, so they nicknamed it Brigitte Bardot, like the French actress. This nickname was adopted by the factory workers and shortened to BB. However, Ferrari officials quickly changed it to Berlinetta Boxer, as a Ferrari should not be named after a woman. When these cars were first produced, they were actually never intended for the US market. At the time, the US had extremely strict EPA and DOT regulations, plus there was a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, so Enzo Ferrari decided that the 8-cylinder cars would suffice just fine for the US, and the Boxers were never intended for America. However, dealers did want these cars here. There was a demand for the 12-cylinder cars, so they enlisted the help of third parties to make them EPA and DOT approved, and they do things like add catalytic converters. Now, finding one that conforms to California's very, very strict regulations is extremely difficult, but Boxers nowadays with the added equipment are at the very least 49 state cars, meaning you can have them everywhere except California because of our regulations here. This is another one of the cars that has been through an extensive restoration. We have a binder full of photos of the restoration. It was stripped down to bare metal, fully repainted, the interior was done, everything was done. And the thing is, it was done about 10 years ago, but the car still presents like it was very recently restored. There's no real, there weren't many miles put on the car between restoration and now, which means there's not a lot of rock chips or any kind of signs of wear and tear from throughout the years. So the car presents very nicely. It has about 50,000 miles, which on these, it's interesting because some cars you look at it and you go, oh, that's high mileage at 50,000. But something like a Boxer, like, okay, that's pretty average mileage. And because the mileage isn't the main factor, it's condition. Finding one that's nicely restored with decent miles that is just a nice driver where it's not so perfect you never want to drive it, but it's not something you can thrash around. It's obviously in great shape. So it's that happy medium that a lot of people are looking for, where it just becomes that perfect Sunday driver. Boxers are extremely fun to drive. Having 12 cylinders, light car, responsive steering, it's that perfect combination. And the weight balance is really nice in these cars where you can take turns quick and it just kind of sticks to the road. Now, Boxers are notorious for having very stiff clutches. And it's one of those things that if you've driven a few of them, the first time you step on a Boxer clutch, it's very stiff and it has a very short throw. So you there's this sweet spot. It's something it takes a little getting used to, but it's not super stiff. Like, it's not outrageous. It's just it's a Boxer clutch. I mean, it is what it is. This car, it's actually a little lighter than other Boxers I've driven. It's still stiff, but it's a bit lighter. One of the funny things I find about Boxers is, and a lot of Ferraris in general, but especially this one, for example, so the parking brake, when you release it, I always wrap my knuckles right on these switches right here. And I always wonder why they put certain things in certain places. That's not exactly the best design, in my opinion. But I mean, it's functional, it works, and at least you're not using the e-brake all the time. It's just when you're stopping, so it works. It's just, I wish they had moved them a little bit. But it's the little things like that that kind of give these cars personalities, and each one is different. I like how the gauges are laid out in these cars. It makes everything kind of easy to glance over while driving. So the designs of these cars throughout the years, especially things like hiding the door handle. So on the door panel, you see there is no door handle, but if you reach right up under here, it's hidden right there. And it's designs like that I love about Ferraris and exotic cars in general, because they're kind of fun to figure out. When you sit in the car and you're like, all right, how do I get out? And finding the door handle and figuring out all the little tricks of these cars. Most Boxers, or most 512 BB and BBIs, come in one solid color. However, when they were first introduced as the 365 GT4 BB, they came in this two-tone with the bottom half black and the top half whatever color it came in. And the idea behind that was to make the car look slender, which they're already pretty short cars, so yeah, I don't know why they needed to be more slender, but the two-tone look on Boxers, I love it. Another thing about these cars, Scaglietti himself said that they were the end of an era because they were the last of the all hand-built Ferraris. And that's one of those things you don't get anymore, obviously. I mean, parts are just stamped out of big machines and thrown together. So having true hand-built cars is a thing of the past and a piece of history. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and please subscribe to my channel, and we will catch you in the next video.